Hi, Fran. Thank you so
How
much.
are you? I know. So I know you said that this is like one of your first times doing the IG Live, but let me tell you, it's just like this every single time, no matter how many times you get on it. It's kind of like, what's going on? Is she here? Is she not here? And then, I had about 15 minutes where I was trying to get somebody into an IG Live and they were on their computer, and I had no idea you couldn't do it from the computer for the longest. So it's always a struggle. It is a struggle.
Like,
So
funny.
I know. Well, so let me give you a proper introduction. So Melissa Ritz, which I love. I know that is your name, but it is the best name. And you have Bombshell. Is it Bombshell Lamel? Which is so flowing off your tongue, just like starlit, Well, so you have a very diverse background. So you have the performance aspect, you have the fitness thing going because you teach yoga, but you also are a veteran and of the Air Force. And so you have these stories. And so when I talk to people on, this particular format for Level Up, I talk about the online shift of dance and fitness and how people have moved online, whether it's their business or how they connect with people. And we have worked together in the past at a performing arts college. And I know that gave you kind of an outlet. But you're a writer. So you moved on to greener pastures and are doing that thing, but you decided to have this podcast called Served, which I just want to hear so much more about. So tell me about your podcast.
Well, thank you, Sandra. You did your homework in giving mine. So yeah, I grew up in a military family.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting into when I joined the Air Force, and I joined the Air Force to get money to go to college because I wanted to pursue that, and that wasn't really supported by my family. That's a nice hobby, but that's not something you pursue professionally. So, and it was the best decision I made because I got to travel the world. I got to perform with a military entertainment group, and I met amazing women in my life who were in leadership positions. Just, what a position of authority like and how to mentor people. And the military gives you those fundamental tools as well. Then the war kicked off. Just giving you my age there, the war kicked off in 2003, and I worked in the medical field. And at that point, I had been in the military for 8 years. And I knew if I had a choice at that point to either stay in the military or get out, it was going to be I joined to do the art. That's what I'm. And I moved to Las Vegas, where they have a college that had the arts, and I had the GI Bill, so I could finally pay for my degree on my own and do what I do. So I got my undergrad and grad degree at UNLV. And in the time I was doing that, was also cocktailing in a casino, making a ton of money.
Yes.
So I had money, about $1,000 a night in cash, and I was miserable. And I just decided I need to shift gears again. So I wrote a solo show, and I performed a solo show, moved to New York City, where I just threw myself in the world of auditioning and meeting people, getting to know casting directors, getting to know other people, got their avenue into the arts, and learned a lot and performed a lot. And then the process of auditioning in New York, walking into an audition room where there's 300 girls who look a lot like me, and they have 2 roles they're casting, and 50 girls have already worked with a director before. I was like, I need to take the reins of my own career and make this happen. I don't want to put my career in somebody else's choice. And in reading audition material, reading these lines, I was like, I can write something just like this, better than this. I've got stories to share. I've been around the world, 20 countries, almost 50 states. I've had a bunch of different jobs. I don't see any stories that relate to my experience. So I just started writing. And I started writing because I was a starving artist. This was something free to do. I could watch a TV show, download a script, and see how they made that happen, how from the script related to the screen.
Right.
Being in the military opened doors for me in the arts because all these veteran programs opened up in Los Angeles. One of them being the Veteran Writing Project at the Writers Guild Foundation, where they pair up military veterans with actual writers in Hollywood, and they mentor you through writing a script, reading pages, getting feedback, how to take feedback, which from the acting world, and as you know, you got to take a note. You got to take a dance note. My undergrad is in dance. You know, the hand isn't here, it's here. It's this way, it's technique.
Yeah.
So that really helped me in the writer's room, and then learning how to work with people, which is my favorite thing, working in an ensemble to create something bigger. So although I did the solo show, my favorite part of it was collaborating. And then when opening night came and I was standing on stage and it was just me and a house full of people, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to perform this? How am I going to keep everybody's attention for 75 minutes? So that was a good lesson too. But getting into the writing, it just felt much more comfortable because I'm collaborating and sharing experiences. Or like I would pitch a thought and it's, no, that person has a really cool spin on that idea. What happens if we go in that direction? Yeah, it just felt, it made me feel creative. It was my voice, my point of view, and then it actually opened up doors for me to get into more of the writing industry in Los Angeles, which is when you and I met, kind of in that mix. In one of those writing programs, my name got passed to an agent to be an assistant. And because she's got a military background, she's done all these things. This agent wanted to be more inclusive of pulling in new kinds of people to his agency. So he liked that I was a veteran. He liked that I had lived a little bit of a life. He knew that I would bring in a little bit of maturity to the agency in a negative way, but you've got a lot of younger people. He knew that I would just be a different kind of presence.
Right.
So, then I left the Performing Arts College to go work for this literary agent. And it's like a PhD now. So I work 5 days a week for this man. I'm on all the phone calls. I have active Zoom meetings where they're pitching to executives, hearing the stories. I'm hearing how they pitch. I'm hearing what they lean into, what the executives pass on. And it's like an audition. It's like our dance combination. They ask you all kinds of questions. Their job is to say no. You as the is to get them to not say no. So it's about communication and how do you articulate yourself in a short amount of time to get a story across, which is a lot what like a monologue is. Or a dance piece. So it's interesting looking back. I never thought going into the military would get my way into the arts, right? But being in the military was what helped me get this job with this agency. And I've been there for a year and a half, about a year and a half almost, which is crazy.
I know, it's crazy.
But I think the lesson is to stay active, be open to change, to see what doors are open. You might have in your mind, this is the one thing that's going to get me here. And really be open to new experiences. And everything's changing all the time. And just like you said about going online with social media and promoting yourself, that makes a difference. People people take notice of that, and it's a freedom for an artist. You can share your point of view and collaborate, and it's powerful. It's exciting.
Well, and that's exactly what you're doing, is you are sharing stories in this new venture. And I don't even know how many episodes or if you've even premiered or debuted your podcast yet, but what inspired you to tell these women's stories that have served in the military? And I don't know if you're focusing on the Air Force or if it's just across the board, but what made you decide like now's the time for these stories to be told and bring in other people, because you have your own stories, so why have guests and all of that?
Thank you. So I started Served, this podcast about military women's stories, because I'm constantly being told I don't look like a veteran. You mean your husband was in the military? I don't look like what we think. Everybody has the idea of Rambo in their head. That's what a soldier looks like.
Right.
And I've been out for 17 years. So over the course of hearing this long term, I'm like, let me educate people. Let's use this as a platform and a tool to talk to women. Like, what does a veteran look like? What were your experiences like in a male-dominated institution that is the military? What is a woman's role? Women have been to combat. We're issued guns. People are like, really give you guns. Then you sit at the desk. Oh, we're out there. So I've had 5 episodes, and I interview anyone from all the branches, and I got educated on a branch I didn't even know existed. in the public health sector. So that's getting dropped tomorrow. But in the world of quarantine, it's a way to stay connected with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to just share different experiences. To hear, my latest guest was 92 years old, what her experience was like being one of the first women in the Army Women's Corps, to someone who just recently got out, and how our experiences, same, different, what's changed, what's improved, and just to highlight women and unexpected choices that they might make.
Yeah. Well, and it's a new medium. You know, a lot of people, you know, I had never listened to a podcast in my life until quarantine, right? Until the pandemic, which is crazy because podcasts have been around, right? But I feel like when people have like this stillness, which is what I think a lot of people have told me, you're in the quiet, right? And you're listening to yourself a little more, and sometimes that's bad. And sometimes that can be really inspiring, right? And you can create out of this moment. And so you have, I don't know how long have you been thinking about this idea?
For a long time, and just putting it off because life is getting in the way, or there's a zillion things you're trying to do, and as an artist, spinning 20 plates at the same time.
Exactly.
And one more plate I wanted to keep, I wanted to add to the mix. But quarantine helped facilitate it. So it was finally like a way of everything shutting down so we can all reevaluate. And it's like, well, now I've got the time to do this. I've got access to do it because all I did was put it up on Facebook, and then people came to me. I'm interviewing I've never met before.
Yeah.
Connection, this shared experience of being in the military. So why not? And it's time to hear our stories and our voices. And as the world is changing and we're opening up to hearing more people's experiences, why not share women in the military? People join the military because they're either trying to escape something or change their life in a big way. And everyone has their reason for joining the military. Good or bad, or, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I got out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those things when I hear about someone like yourself who is super creative and is offering basically this opportunity for other people to have a space. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's important because you don't have to, right? Like, you could just go about your life and do what you do. But because it's important to you, people see that and they go, I need to be part of that. You know, just like you said, people are gravitating toward you because they're like, yeah, she's doing it, and I feel like for me, you're inspiring for other people to just do it, because there's so many people who sat back at the beginning, and I talk about this all the time. They sat back at the beginning of the pandemic and were like, this is going to be all over in a little bit and we'll be right back to normal. And now we're like 6 months later, and we're not back to normal, and there never will be what it used to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but it won't be what it was, because there are so many changes that will happen that have to stay in order for people to feel secure. And so with stories like this, and I know that, the glass ceiling, whether it's in politics, being, when will that happen, or people in the military respecting women in a position of power, I feel like the more stories that are out there to get traction, so that people are normalizing the fact that women are there. They're just not the ones at home to welcome back a spouse. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of TV stories show that part. They show the leaving at the airport and the welcoming back at, you know what I mean? And it's not always what you're talking about. It's not always just the women being cheered and celebrated as war heroes the same as men are. And so for so many people, you're probably going to stream this, people are going to be listening to this over there or over wherever they are, right? At these combat positions, or, in peaceful, I don't know, hangars, or wherever people are, doing their duty, because they're going to it's going to resonate with them. They're going to probably hear friends of theirs on your podcast. And I don't know how many of these podcasts are actually out there for people to listen to. But I definitely think that it's a new take on something that's been around for a long time, as far as podcasts are concerned. So I definitely think there's a space for you to not to go super into Air Force, but take off. You know?
Yeah. I agree. And thank you for saying that. And yeah, I just think we're interesting. We got some things to share. And I think what you touched on, an important part of it is media dictates how we see representation.
Right.
So, and that's why I think people have the image of a soldier as someone who is like the Rambo type, or someone who's got extreme PTSD and is ready to just go off the edge at any moment. Those are the images that we see, or homelessness, the homeless veteran from different generations in war. But there's so many other stories out there. Those stories exist for sure. And there's some ugly stories that people, you know, they don't want you to see in the military. So it's about education and representation, and you got to put it all out there. So some of my girlfriends have already gotten responses from people off of this. I've only done 5 episodes. My first guest is an Indian American immigrant who moved here when she was 12 years old, joined the military. She had no idea what she was getting into. And then they sent her off to Iraq. And then she just was like, as a Sikh woman, what did, you know, she had a lot of conflict about it. I interviewed a woman who went in right after Vietnam in 1979. Not a popular time to join the military, and women were not wanted. And she became a Russian linguist.
Okay.
Which is amazing. And beautiful story. Hers will be released next week. But just to hear how her experience was the same or different, or just like, wow, she listened to interceptions from Russia back in the Cold War era, and she's deciphering phone calls, right? Some top secret information. But we don't see women like that. Or I have girlfriends who were deployed in the front lines when we were building up to go invade Iraq, and being the only woman in an entire unit who was in a position of authority, and but being in a Middle Eastern country where they didn't respect women, even though she was in charge of these men, the local men wanted nothing to do with her. And I've had experience with that too, but it's an interesting dynamic. So
well, do you have any advice for someone maybe who is sitting at home watching this on YouTube, or, you know, I'm gonna put it on LinkedIn and Facebook. If somebody's watching this and maybe they want to start their own podcast, what is something that, maybe a hiccup that you encountered where you're like, I needed to fix that, or a solution that you're like, this is the best, I use this all the time? Anything like that for people maybe who want to start their own?
Great question. You should do it. You should go and follow that little voice that's talking. Yes, do it, commit to it. There's great videos on YouTube. I have a circular mic, and I just started speaking into it, not knowing that the microphone part was on this side, that it should have been turned around like this. So I had to travel around.
Right.
So I had to go back in and re-record every single thing I said that recorded into GarageBand. So make sure you research your equipment and don't make assumptions. Because it's a circular mic, you can speak into any part of it. And be forgiving. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay to make the mistakes. It's okay to say, I didn't know something. And then press on, learn from it, and move on. Don't beat yourself up. I think we see a lot of polished things out there, and that's great, but we don't know what it took to get to that polished state.
Exactly.
I have audio from a girlfriend in Italy, and it got messed up. So at the beginning of my episode, I say, forgive this 90 seconds where I clearly demonstrate I don't know what I'm doing here. And have fun listening, right? I fixed it all, but it was like, this is what it is. You know, stick through that little muddy part, and on the end of it, you'll have a little laugh, and you'll be, you know,
The other day I did a Facebook Live, and I had slides that I had actually prepared, like took time, and I put Halloween as October 30th. It's not October 30th. It's October 31st. My daughter's birthday is October 30th. So clearly my head was in a different place. But everybody has to forgive a little bit of, you know, something like that. But I definitely think you are inspiring, and people need to take a listen to Served. So tell people where they can find it.
Thank you. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, Google. There's so many platforms out there right now. Typed in Served, Military Women's Stories. It's a photo of me doing a salute like this.
Yes.
only two female podcasts for military veterans out there, mine and another girl's. So check them both out.
Yeah. Nice. See, yeah. I told you, you are in a league of your own, and with the amount of, what is it? I think they said there's 2 point something million people in the military right now. That's a lot of listens. So hopefully, you know, oh, somebody wrote, it's a great podcast. So proud of all you've achieved. Oh, you have fans.
My sister, and I saw Sandeep earlier.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that there's an audience, regardless if they're in the military or not, because people need to learn about the sacrifices that people are have in the past or are currently, you know, serving, you know, just the amazingness that are, you know, is happening in the world right now. You know, you just don't know, you know, all the things that we don't know are happening or have happened, and we just take for granted. So I appreciate you, you know, getting this out there and, you know, taking your Saturday with me.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for making time. I'm so honored I got to do my live with you.
Yay! So now you can just get on and do a whole bunch more lives. They're so easy. I like to flip the camera this way, so I'm not talking on top, because you know that whole.
Oh
yeah.
Tip, like, look at that real life tip. That's great. And thank you for hosting this platform. You were such a go-getter. You were like constantly involved, and as a mother, and you're working and you're creating, and you just. Mm-hmm. I admire you, and I love being around women who are making things happen.
Yeah. Well, let me know whenever your next writing venture comes out, and I will definitely tell everybody about it. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, love.